It's very nice. It's very nice.
What?
I know they're adding on.
Oh, sorry.
You're welcome, but my phone wants to.
Yes, that'll be. Are we on the clock?
Yep.
Okay, hello, everyone. This is the Battery Park City Committee of Community Board One. My name is Jeff Galloway. I'm the chair of the committee. Next to me, Derek Flores, co-chair. And we have various other committee members here as well as guests. We have 5 items on the agenda, and the first one is a presentation by the Port Authority regarding the World Trade Center Riverwater Cooling Pump Station work under Kowski Plaza near Gateway Apartments. And I believe we have representatives of the Port Authority here online. And which of you will start? I think you can unmute yourselves.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We appreciate the opportunity to meet with you with the Battery Park City Committee to provide an update on the River Water Pump Station project. Tonight, the team will review the project's background, discuss the scope and timeline, highlight changes that have been made over time, and walk through the current project footprint. So we look forward to a fruitful discussion and hearing your feedback. And I will pass it to my colleague, Ashley Mejia. And also later on speaking will be, excuse me, will be speaking Olga Passarelli. So with that, I'll pass it. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ophelia. Good afternoon, everyone. Does everybody see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Give me 1 second so I could just make it bigger. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashley Mejia. I'm a project manager at the World Trade Center Department, and I'm going to be giving the project update on the River Water Pump Station project. For the agenda, we're going to go over the background of the project for those who are not familiar, scope and timeline, some of the past changes we've made throughout the footprint of the project, and the current project footprint. So first, starting with the background, the River Water Pump Station draws cool water from the Hudson River to produce chilled water for cooling at the World Trade Center public facilities. On the right-hand side, you can see 2 intake tunnels that are below the esplanade. They draw the water from the Hudson River into the station that's below grade. The objective of the project is to remove the sediment from the intake tunnels and to replace 5 water gates in total. Currently, we've replaced 2 out of the 5 gates, and we will also be placing bar racks at the intake tunnel entrances to mitigate any marine entrapment. The operations of the project is weekdays from Monday to Friday. Hours of operations are 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we work to provide minimal noise as the work is primarily below ground. So for the scope and anticipated timeline, for the waterworks side, we've completed the initial barge and dive survey and the dredging underneath the esplanade. Currently, right now, we are have a barge for us to be able to switch the intakes. We're currently working towards wrapping up the north side and to move to the south side. And we're anticipating in winter 2027 that the final barge will come back, but it'll be in winter 2027 when we're finalizing the southern side. So right now it's there for us to complete the north, and it'll be back in winter for us to complete the south. And that's primarily to remove the bulkhead and install the final bar racks. For the land side, we completed the site mobilization, and in winter 2023, we began the replacement of the north water gates, which is currently in commission, and that's how we're wrapping up the north side. We also completed the critical concrete slab repairs that we encountered on the north side. And also currently, we are working towards going to the south side now from this summer to summer 2027 to replace the remaining water gates. And in winter 2027, we'll have the final testing and commissioning pending unforeseen conditions that we're going to encounter in the south side. So this is just a snapshot of the conditions of the...
All these promises that we made, can we break? Why is it?
Sorry. So this is a photo of the conditions of the north side when we encountered it, when we were performing the scope of the project. The concrete was falling off from the operating level. This was a condition that we found throughout the tunnel, and we've worked to mitigate, to make the remediations. So in the next photo, I'll show some of the progress that we've made by replacing a full depth replacement of the concrete slab and also some coating. So we're anticipating similar work to be encountered in the south side. So we haven't been into the south side yet, but we're anticipating similar repairs and ultimately full depth replacement of the concrete slab. And I'm going to hand it over to Olga, who is the resident engineer for the project, to talk about some of the past changes we've made on the project.
Thank you, Ashley, and good evening, everyone. Hope you can hear me. It's Olga Passarelli. I'm the resident engineer for the River Water Pump Station project. And what you see here is something that has been done in the past. At the very beginning of this project, the initial footprint was supposed to include everything around the Koski Plaza, the work area, because of a need of a crane. So the contractor and the Port Authority worked on a mitigation plan, changing all the equipment that were necessary to move around these new sluice gates that are replaced as part of the project. And we got to a revised plan with a much smaller work footprint that was maintained from the beginning to basically the spring of 2025. And as Ashley mentioned, because the work is mainly underground, I mean under the ground level, there is nevertheless a noise monitoring and a mitigation plan for mitigate every impact to the community. And in the next slide, we see what we went through during the concrete repairs with an increased traffic. We worked with the community and implemented change according to feedback, reconfiguring the site in a way that it was allowing vehicles to come in and out, not having interference with pedestrians and with people willing to access the playground and the dog run. So we basically opened the second gate to the playground and on top of the ADA ramp to and provided signage to redirect every pedestrians to the new route. And this was the situation that was implemented last year in spring, and it lasted up to the current year's spring. So basically giving more access and without interruption and let's say contemporaneity of construction activities. And yep, that this is something that I think you are all familiar with. That's the second gate of the playground that was opened, and it was put in place, and signage that was directing strollers and dog owners and pedestrians towards the ADA ramp and the new access. And this is all what was the site prior to spring 2026, when there was the new development for the resiliency program all around us. I'll pass it to you, Ashley, if you want to proceed.
Yeah. Thanks, Olga. Yeah, so just as Olga mentioned, I have a current project footprint that's outlined here. In the gray, you will see this is the Battery Park flood resiliency project area that was mobilized, I want to say, in spring of this year. And our current work area for the River Water Pump Station, which within the work area, we have dumpster storage and a field office. And like I mentioned, since we're wrapping up the north side, we are going to be working towards the south side, getting access to these hatches to be able to perform the work below grade and replace the remaining gates. You will also see here that the entrance for our construction vehicles and general access to the site is maintained through this corridor here. And this is how we are able to perform the scope of work and also be able to provide access for any equipment, personnel, and other machinery that's required for the project. And I'll hand it over. Well, I think that was it. Sorry. So that's all we have for the project update. Thank you all for listening, and we're open to any feedback or comments. Thank you.
Before we go to Q&A, Zach, can you allow Jolene Yates to be also a speaker? She's part of the PA staff. I don't know if Hirsch Parekh has also joined, but if you could also allow them. Thank you.
Great, done.
Okay, I will start out with a couple of introductory questions. One is that on your slide, you made reference to winter 2027, when various things are going to be completed. Of course, winter season spans 2 calendar years. And so can you clarify if, when you say winter 2027, you mean like in January 2027, February 2027, or do you mean December 2027?
Sure. So right now we are forecasting December 2027 towards the end of the year. That is pending the unforeseen conditions that we'll be encountering in the south side. So that is our current project schedule.
Okay. So basically 18 months from now, roughly, is what you anticipate the construction schedule to take?
Correct.
Yeah, that's
Well,
the construction team. They are doing an analysis and checking. And as Ashley mentioned, we're going to go on the south side. And as you know, with construction, once you start the work, you never know what you're going to find. As you saw one of the underground, when you saw the previous slide, we didn't know the conditions were like that, and it was very deteriorated. So we had to fix that. We couldn't just leave it like that. So the team, this is the best case scenario, but they'll continue to assess and see. But we, as a team, want to stay on schedule, but we cannot, guarantee or give an exact date at this time. But this is the best we can project. Olga, I don't know if you want to add anything.
I think that's perfect, Philia. The concrete repairs are the ones that are, of course, of interest here, and the watering and the opening of the south will allow us to better assess and project the timeline of the project activities. As Ophelia said.
Question or set of questions has to do with access to the dog run and playground. As you described in your presentation, you were able to accommodate access to those 2 amenities prior to the resiliency construction by moving some things around in terms of where you are working. Now, as your latest slide showed, those accesses are blocked by resiliency construction. Have you thought about the ability to reconfigure your work, particularly in light of the fact that you're going to be moving to the south side for the focus of your upcoming work, that would enable opening up a path on Kowski Plaza itself to either of those 2 amenities?
Great question. So we recognize the concerns about the dog run and the playground and understand it can be an inconvenience caused by the temporary closure. The Port Authority and BPCA staff, we met on site to discuss the amenity closures and assess the feasibility. As you know, we do our best in regards to minimizing community impacts and explore opportunities where possible and make adjustments and reconfigurations. But safety remains a priority, a top priority. And so when the Port Authority saw that both construction projects that are now active and in this area, the environment became a larger construction footprint. And so since then, the conditions have changed and they're no longer the same. And there's 2 active projects operating side by side. And there's going to be ongoing construction. BPCA is going to have upcoming heavy equipment coming in. And we need to maintain a safe and functional work zone. We're already in a small footprint, so we can't reduce it anymore. And both projects need to coexist. And so reopening access to these amenities is currently not feasible without introducing safety concerns or potentially, extending schedules or increasing costs to the project. So our agencies will continue to work closely together as the construction progresses. But we definitely understand, and we've been working together in a partnership because it's both projects happening in this small space.
Yes, obviously, safety is the highest priority here. Either one, nobody would want to be accessing an area that is unsafe. From sort of the untutored lay eye, it looks to me that the dog run is in a different category than the playground in terms of the potential for additional access. The dog run, after all, is almost accessible now with relatively small movement of the Port Authority activity, whereas the playground, number one, has children playing in it where the safety concerns might be greater than, generally speaking, adults and dogs, but it's also further away. And so the path through your work to the playground may be more difficult than to the dog run. So I'd urge you to think in terms of, even if only one of them is accessible, that's a benefit to the community, even if it's not possible to make both of them available. We may have some other comments from participants here at the meeting. I know both of these amenities have been the subject of some concern expressed in the community. So let me open it up to other questions. First here in the room, Mark.
Thank you. When you mentioned the December 27 end date, which is your current estimate based on best case with a big asterisk on subject to change based on what you find when we get access to the south tunnel, I think you acknowledge that you expect the same concrete work to be required in the south tunnel. So your best case of December 27 anticipates that concrete work, or not yet anticipate that concrete work?
It does. So yeah, I can take that. So yes, it does anticipate concrete work. We're actually hoping that because we performed a lot of the repairs in the north side, that we're going to use those lessons learned to be able to effectively repair the south side. But like I said before, since that the south side is currently in operation under with water, we won't really know the full depth of the scope of work until we're there, but we're hopeful that it will be similar to the extent that we encountered in the north, and we'll like I said, use those lessons learned to be able to have that best case scenario for the winter, like I mentioned.
And just to follow on that, if I understand correctly, the project roughly started 2.5 years ago, plus or minus, and we're still in the process of replacing 2 of the 5, with 3 remaining hasn't yet started, but you believe you'll be able to do the replacement of the 3 in the 18-month period, where the first 2 of 2.5 years.
Yes, that's correct. The project was delayed initially because it was an unforeseen condition, and we actually had to go through a full design to be able to get a full repair detail to be able to perform the work. So yes, we're right now we're anticipating replacing the 3 gates towards that timeline.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Your questions online? I don't see any hands raised.
There's a couple people who've dialed in by phone. If you want to raise your hand on the phone, it is *3.
A couple of seconds while I follow up from Mark there on timing. Given that we have 18 months ahead of work, to what extent do you anticipate over that course of time being able to alter your capture area? Going back to the dog run, for example, as I mentioned before, it would only take a relatively small shift of the current fence and the various items that are along that fence before there could be an ADA accessible access path to the dog run. Do you anticipate changes in your work, over the coming 18 months where there may be opportunities to move that fence and those items that may not exist today?
Currently, as it remains, we're already in a confined workspace, and we don't see, as Ashley mentioned, we're going to work on the south side. So even if, say, we were to reopen the south side area, we would have to close it because there's like manholes. Is that, correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley? Manholes, so they have to work underground. And so they're going to have to close it, open it. And again, you're going to come back to the same issues where it's very narrow. Strollers, large strollers needs to fit. Plus the fence has a bump out, so people could trip, especially if they're wearing flip-flops. It created conditions, like the dogs would pee on it. So it just created a lot of conditions. And Olga can speak to that because she was on the field a lot and witnessed a lot of these things. So at this point, we don't see it reopening. Olga, do you want to add anything?
Yes, but just to add to your point, we're going to mainly work on the south culvert, the south tunnel, which will mean that we're going to have access through hatches that are basically along the south line, where in the previous and in the initial footprint there was the access towards the playground. Of course, as you said, playground in an area heavily affected by construction is per se sort of an oxymoron, and it's a contradiction. On the other hand, the dog run, though, dog owners are people, and they also walk towards the site in a situation where we would need to grant a full access and safe access. At the moment, on the north side, we have all the equipment and the site office, which is connected with power, and it's not as easy movable as it can be. We definitely project to maintain this footprint up to almost the end. Probably the last actions will be to retrieve and recover the plaza, so that will mean a final reduction in footprint, but it might be a couple of months before the projected end, not too much.
And last point to add to that, it could extend our schedule and our budget. So those are another reasons why.
We're continuing to explore with the authority access through authority property to the dog run, independent of the Port Authority. So one thing I'd ask is that you not use the dog run for like staging or anything in the meantime that would preclude access. You certainly haven't been using it in the past, so hopefully you wouldn't need that space for staging in the future. Is that a realistic possibility that you would not need it for staging?
To be clear, we never used the dog run or the playground area, and the enclosure is from the resiliency project. So
Okay, so you don't have.
BPCA put the fences over, and they've also added tree guards around it in the playground. So, but the Port Authority would never encroach that space or utilize it for any lay down or staging.
Okay, that's helpful. Tammy, I see you have your hand up.
I just wanted, thank you so much. I just wanted to say thank you because I know that the Port Authority and Ashley had come many times and said that they would not close either the dog run or the tot lot. And every diagram we have from their staged planned project showed access paths changed, obviously, based on the status of the project, but it was always providing context and public realm access. So I wanted to actually say thank you for that, because that was one of the most important conversations we had in the initial outlining it. So I'm really pleased to hear that they, again, as Ophelia said, would not be ever touching those. And thank you to Ashley as well. So that's great news. And so I think with that, as they say, the ball is in the BPCA court.
And I want to add my thanks to what Tammy just said. It's hard for a construction project to be a good neighbor, but you all have been during the construction, so thank you for that. Mark.
One more
Appreciate
question.
that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Best case happened December 27, and you are delayed. Has there been any conversation with the authority on how, if your project gets delayed into 2028, how that might interfere with their timeline for the resiliency project and what the impact would be?
Could you hear that question?
Could you repeat that? I didn't come in clear. Did you, Olga or Ashley, did you get that?
I think I understood that you were asking how are we managing a possible extension of our timeline and the ongoing resiliency schedule, correct? To respond to you, we are asking, and we've been asking to have an ongoing coordination with resiliency. We had a walkthrough specifically aimed at this, at assessing the feasibility of opening new access or and our internal, overlapping needs. So we will maintain this coordination with them, and as soon as we have a better planning of the scope, whenever we are going to be able to assess the situation of the concrete in the south, we'll definitely go back and coordinate more in detail with the resiliency. But we already have, and Ophelia set up a recurring meeting for coordination.
Yeah, as mentioned, we're in close collaboration with BPCA, and we're both working together to update each other on projects, the status, even simple things like our staff needs to access their space, which is closed by the waterfront, so that the boat can be there to do work in the water side. So they have to have PPE. There's a lot of like safety gear that they need to wear, a helmet. So we need to coordinate closely to just make sure not only the public stays safe, but our staff stay safe. And then we know what's happening on the project side, so we can kind of work cohesively and kind of in a unison, as opposed to getting each other's way. So yeah, we're definitely meeting often.
Thank you.
Tammy, I see you have your hand up again. Go ahead.
I guess my question is, because we don't meet as often with you, right? Is to kind of understand from a public perspective. We're delighted to hear that kind of ongoing coordination. How often that, like, is that like a weekly meeting, a monthly meeting? I'm just curious if that's something. I mean, I'm sure it's daily because you've got GCs on both projects, but just for argument's sake here.
Sure. So we've been meeting consistently before the resiliency project started. We have been in touch with BPCA. We're a strong partner, whether this project or other projects. And now that construction has ramped up on their resiliency project, we plan to meet either monthly or bi-monthly. So we're trying to strike the right cadence, because we don't want to meet just to meet. There's a lot of engineers, professionals. We don't want to waste folks' time unless there's something to address. But we plan to stay well connected.
Thank you
Right,
very,
do we
very
have
much.
Yes, thank you. Do we have other questions? I don't see any in the room. I don't think I see hands online. So Port Authority, thank you very much. This was a very informative presentation. And one hand, Nicole Pratt, you should be able to unmute yourself. Nicole?
Go ahead. Cole, you're unmuted. Go ahead and speak.
Yes, I hear you. Okay.
Can't hear you, Nicole.
You may want to just allow her to dial in or back if it's not working.
Nicole, you can try to disconnect and reconnect. Try to cure your connection.
Hands down, it's not heavy.
Okay. All right. Jeff, before we cut the Port Authority loose, I could just plug in for my. Sure. Go ahead, Nick. There, over last week, and Julie especially, Julie, I know she and I are talking oftentimes, several times a week, at least probably once a week or more. And I just want to say what a great professional she is to work with and how deeply concerned she is with community impacts. So but some of the time, we always try to find a way to get to the place where we are minimizing impact the best we can. So, Julie has been, obviously, it's just really wonderful throughout the process, and I thank you for that coordination. And what is a very complex and challenging, so, thank you. Thank you, Nick. Thank you. Well, Port Authority, hopefully the next time we have you back, you're reporting on how wonderful the project went and you finished ahead of schedule. We'll see. So, thank you for the presentation.
Yes, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
for that, Nick. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you for having us.
Bye.
Okay, number 2 on the agenda is the environmental monitor report from Laura Dodge from Excel Environmental Resources. Laura is joining us online. Yep, there she is. So Laura, can you tell us how things have been going?
Good. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay. They're going well. We have, so our work is basically daily. We get the alerts that occur for both the 2 action levels, 1 and 2. 1 is the screening level, which is below the actual action level, and then the second level is the alert level, or the action level, which is the slightly higher concentration for all of the parameters, that are being monitored, include for all of the reaches, the particulate matter 10, particulate matter 2.5, and also for volatile organics. There have been no volatile organic exceedances or alerts of any kind since the project started, which is not surprising because you wouldn't expect to see volatile organics in this type of work. It's predominantly, dust and particulate matter. So there, when the reaches are active, sometimes we're seeing, alert levels. It's very variable. When they do occur, if they approach the action level, there's, an email sent either by Innovate or by us. If Innovate doesn't act, then we do, to alert the team that, when you're approaching the action level or exceeding the action level, work has to stop. Evaluate best management practices, which to date has been basically spraying water onto the work area. And what we can tell you for sure is that the exceedants that do occur are not long duration. They seem to be resetting very quickly. The work, we constantly remind them that they have to stop and evaluate and do the best management practices update. And then they send us pictures to show us that they actually are doing it. And we actually are also conducting, random inspections that basically confirm that they are in fact using the best management practices per the community or monitoring plan. We have had discussions with the team about certain larger reaches, especially at night and over the weekend, to try to increase the application of water, whether it be through not just the use of a hose, but use of sprinklers or possibly misting, and other best management practices that we've discussed with them, and they're evaluating those, because some of the larger areas where soils are exposed, especially if it's a dry time frame or if it's windy, can result in some overnight alerts. But again, they are short-lived. We really haven't seen much of an issue with them being continuous. They reset pretty quickly on their own, but still, when that does happen, there needs to be action and action taken. So since no one's on site at night after the work is stopped or on the weekends, it's important to leave the site in a condition where, that's not going to be occurring on a regular basis. So I know there were some questions from a resident that Tammy Melter forwarded to me. I don't know, Tammy, do you want me to address those now or? Sure. So the questions that came in related to the March and April Innovate air monitoring reports. Apparently there was a concern that the April report was prepared by a different entity, but I'm not sure where that came from, because Innovate generates all of the reports. I don't know who EPM is and whether they're just misreading something. But the April report, continuously for the entire project, for all of the reaches, the community air monitoring program requires, and it is occurring, that the camps monitor volatile organics, particulate matter 2.5, which is the smaller micron particulate matter, the smaller dust particles, and PM10. So that is occurring for all of the reaches continuously, 24/7. So I'm not sure why they didn't see that, but it is in the April report, as well as in the March and the May. And as far as the construction activity, there is a description of construction activity for the April report as well. It's on page 11 of the report. So when the report was first drafted, the first report that was provided to us, we reviewed the format. We provided a lot of input to Innovate and to the team. They did take all of our comments. We suggested making the reports more user-friendly. We suggested pulling up the construction summary earlier in the report, and then if they wanted to reiterate it later, they can do that so that people can see what work was going on. In April, there was excavation activity in addition to other tasks that were occurring in some of the reaches. So if this individual is still confused, we can provide a copy of the report if maybe they're not reading it correctly. I'm not really sure exactly where the confusion came in. But I can say definitively that each of the reaches are monitoring for all three of those constituents on a 24-hour, 7-day-week basis, that goes all through the night, on the weekends, on holidays. It's continuous. And we, myself, Eric Mertz, who's our day-to-day project manager, I'm basically the program manager, Eric is the project manager, and then 3 of our technical staff, we all receive the alerts on our cell phones. So in addition to on our computers through email. So we're all receiving them. We one of us is constantly, one of the staff is constantly monitoring. Each day we have, time to check the systems. We can check and see if something's down. If we see something's down, we alert Innovate. Usually if that happens, it's something like, a blip, and it hasn't happened often actually, that any of the monitors have been not functioning. It's actually been very, very few instances of that. So we're still working with them to, in our view, kind of increase the level of dust management for the evenings and the weekends. And that's something that again, we're continuing to have discussions with them. And we're actually going to be conducting an inspection of certain of the reaches. I think it's scheduled actually for tomorrow, so heads up. So it is happening. And then the reporting part of it, we're working on our reports. There's a lot of reaches, there's a lot of data, so it is taking us a little longer to sort of come up with a really efficient way to condense it and provide it. And the AirQual system is different than other systems that we've worked with, so that took a little doing. But Eric is getting ready to issue that report, our first report next week, and we'll try to capture as much as we can to get caught up, and then the next ones will occur much more frequently. But we are here. If there are questions that come up, Tammy, like you did, feel free to forward those to me and Eric Mertz, and one of us will get back to you. That's not a problem. I think you asked me, sort of what's the best way to do it, because we really haven't had it's not been an overwhelming situation where we've gotten inundated with any you know, with questions or comments. So, you know, I welcome that at this point. If it gets too much, I'll let you know. But I don't think right now, I think it's definitely manageable for us to be able to respond to your emails.
So, Laura, thanks for that. So,
Mhm.
just so that I think it's clear to the listeners here,
Right.
the reports that people have been able to review so far that are on the Battery Park City Authority website,
Right.
those are by their contractor. Those are not your reports. Is that
Correct, but
correct?
we review them before they get posted. So if we have any questions on them, if we have any suggested, you know, alterations to format or content, you know, they have accepted our comments without an issue.
And so in relatively short order, you will be having your own reports, and once they start rolling, they will then be rolling on a periodic
Much more
basis.
regular basis, right? It's, you know, I guess the transition to get sort of up and running with all that sort of has taken a little longer, just because it's, you know, there's a lot going on all at one time, and to try to get it into a format that's really efficient, you know, given the frequency that we have to issue these, we have to come up with a template that works. So we're working on that actively, and we have it now, and it should be, you know, again, next week should be when it gets issued out to the BPCA.
One of the things that uh,
I guess my question
comments,
is, will that report simultaneously go to the BPCA and the community board? And where from the BPCA will it live for public consumption? And I know where we can put it on the CB1 site where we
Right.
have, you know, special projects like we did at 250. But I guess my question is, what is the plan and
Mhm.
how can we make sure that the information is transparent and publicly accessible?
Right. I would imagine just sort of like we did with the Borough-based jails program. I mean, the draft report probably will go to BPCA, but I don't expect there to be any changes in statements or content, because that's sort of contrary to the objective. So if we're making recommendations like we did on other projects, we're going to continue to make them, you know, because we're not a hired gun. We're going to call it like we see it. And if we, just like I said, we have made the suggestion to, you know, to look at some alternative best management practices for evenings and weekends, and they are listening to us and have received that comment and that input productively, and are looking at these alternatives and suggestions that we made. And I expect that those same kind of comments and recommendations will be in our report and will remain in the report. So, but I mean, they are responsive. We are getting, I mean, we get an immediate response when we ask a question regarding what's going on. It's usually from at least one person, sometimes two. So Innovate is, you know, the technicians that are running the programs are also in the loop when we send out our emails, and they're getting back to us. We also have their phone numbers and we can call them directly. So everybody has been very responsive.
Right. So,
Gabby, you're done, or?
I just would like to have a formalized understanding. So for everybody, and I think Jeff, for you as well, right? That how often will we get the reports?
Mm-hmm.
How often there's a CAB, which is a construction meeting, which I assume you would be at. And then the question is from there, how often and how do you want the public's emails and questions funneled?
Right. So Eric Mertz and I probably are the ones to receive any email questions, and they can just come directly to us. I mean, I can check with Heather to see who else should be on that email string, and I can get back to you so that the BPCA stays in that loop. You know, I think that's appropriate because they need to also know what the questions are and what our responses are. But our responses, I think, can be directly back to the questions that are raised on the report. I don't have any issue with that. I mean, I think for transparency purposes, just like I just did with the questions that came from Ms. Agarwal through you, as long as they're funneled through you, because I think, you know, it's not productive if people are trying to reach out to us directly. That can get a little overwhelming and
Yep, I think
non effective.
it's not going to come to me personally necessarily. I think it's going to
Right,
come through
the community
Man1.
board, yeah.
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 Sorry, or you can send them directly to Zach, but I think that's a little overwhelming. So,
Right.
Man1.
No, but I mean, it is working, you know, I guess, again, we have 5 of us that are receiving, you know, all of, you know, the alert levels, if it's just a, you know, below the, just to clarify again, the alert level is a level at which they need to be aware that something is going on. It's not the action level exceedance, and those occur more frequently. And those are at that point they don't have to stop work, but they have to evaluate what's going on and see whether or not there's something they can do to either change the approach or up the dust management, because these are all dust, again, no volatile organic exceedances at all, hardly even a detection of volatile organic at any location since the work has started. So, you know, and then if an action level exceeds, then they have to stop work. And we're, you know, either innovate or we will send that email to say, reminder, you need to stop work and make sure that you're evaluating work practices. And then you resume once the alert level is resolved. And that does seem to be happening, because again, things come up and they go down. It's all pretty quickly. It's been handled pretty quickly. But, you know, when it comes to the reporting, you know, I have to circle back and just make sure that I'm 100% accurate in how we're going to be transmitting these, whether we're, you know, posting them, giving them to BPCA and they post them, and then, or if I can also directly provide them to you. I don't know if you had that discussion with BPCA directly. I know that we've done that on other projects, and, you know, the entities that we were working with didn't have an issue with that.
My understanding from the BPCA is we can formulate the proper process, and that should
Right.
not be a problem. That the ball was pushed to our court
Okay.
to design that, so it would be as transparent as it has been in the past, because we've
good.
worked well that way.
Yeah.
The goal would also be live monitoring, if that's a possibility for the public to get to see, but that's not something that I can. It's something that the GC and whoever the CCL and you have to figure out how that information can be accessed and done.
Yeah,
But-
the live monitoring, I mean, one of the challenges, I guess, is not misinterpreting what's being monitored, because the system is pretty complicated, and it gives you the instantaneous readings and then the running averages. And remember, everything with air monitoring and standards, whether it be an alert or an action level, is based on an average. So for the PM10 or the particulate matter 10, which is the coarser fraction of dust, 10 microns and less, it's a rolling 15-minute time-weighted average. PM 2. And that's in accordance with New York State and DEC and Department of Health requirements, and also the City of New York requirements, to be compared to a 15-minute time-weighted average. For PM 2.5, it is not a state or city requirement regulatorily to monitor for PM 2.5. The standards are based on a national ambient air quality standard, which is calculated in comparison to a 24-hour time-weighted average. So that's why it's important, I think, if someone who doesn't understand that or doesn't have a background in how to monitor and review the data, it might wind up causing more confusion than not. So because there are a whole lot of different data points on the system, there's a whole lot of different graphs, a whole lot of different running averages being calculated all the time. So I think it probably is better for reporting rather than, you know, having live review for more than, you know, the people that absolutely have to have it. And again, since we're sort of redundant oversight to Innovate, who is already, you know, on top of it and monitoring, and they have several people involved and who are also getting the alerts. So, you know, we have a lot of eyes on all of these community air monitors.
Let's take a few questions. I think, Sarah, you have your hand up.
I do.
Oops. Trying to.
Too real. What exactly do these monitors look like, and where precisely are they?
That's a good question. I mean, I can't pull up a picture from where I stand right now, but typical community air monitors look like a metal box that stands on a tripod or is on a stand of some kind, depending upon where it's located. There's also a wind.
Wait,
Sorry.
is there one near Gateway Plaza?
Yeah, they will be stationed in upwind and downwind directions in each of the active reaches where work is in progress.
They
And
will, or they are?
sorry,
They will be?
no,
they
they
will be
are, they
stationed.
are, yeah, they are,
Are.
right. And the upwind direction is calculated based on a weather station, and then the system automatically calculates any upwind dust that might be coming into the work zone. And it automatically adjusts for that upwind because you obviously, when you're doing any kind of air quality monitoring, you have to deduct what's blowing in to the work zone from up gradient or upwind, because all that you are monitoring is the net of what's happening in the work zone and what's being contributed from the work zone, not what's blowing in from up gradient plus what's in the work zone. So there's an automatic calculation for that in the air qual system that's being used, which makes life a lot easier because not every camp system has that automatic capability.
Right, but so many people in Gateway Plaza,
Mhm.
right there on the, between the marina and the river,
Right.
are complaining about irritation and annoyance and all kinds of allergies. It's just technical. They are, I would, are having a lot of problems. So I'm curious as to whether, how many of them are in that area?
Okay, so yeah, this is the first I've heard that there's been complaints about physical symptoms of any kind in Gateway Plaza. Um, is there a way for us to find out more about that?
Can I make the comment that this is allergy season? I just saw the physicians. This is very high season in this area.
Right.
Some days have been unbearably high. I
Right.
have that.
Even
It is not
knowing
in the
that.
Construction. It is not
Let's-
in the
let's-
construction. I have it anywhere that I go.
Let's not get into the he said, she said on this. Laura, we can absolutely connect you with the Gateway Plaza Tenants Association.
Yeah.
So you can present and talk to them as well as part
Yeah.
of this. That's not a problem.
Right.
There are many more people.
That'd be great.
We have gotten several emails from constituents about noise and dust. And, you know, looking for HEPA filters. There are some buildings that I don't know how, but, and maybe the Battery Park City Authority can explain this. There's a building that told me that they were promised HEPA filters, but I know that none were promised at Gateway. So perhaps, you know, other conversations have been had that are effective that are not, we're not in the loop with. Just
Okay.
trying to get it all together.
Right. I know one of the things that we are working with BPCA on is to schedule in-person meetings over the next few weeks to month with one or more of the building boards to discuss air quality. So maybe that is what sort of is the genesis of some of these of some of the requests to do that. So we have been coordinating with them to try to set something up. So, and that would involve likely me coming in to talk, and maybe Eric Mertz too, either one of us, if not both, to talk directly with in person with the BPCA and the boards of the different buildings, the different building boards who have expressed concern, I guess. I don't have any further information except for the fact that those discussions are happening.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea for us to gather the residential complaints so we can try to identify what might be the source and what might be the remediation.
Right.
I mean, I do know that near Gateway, there is, for the last week, there's been some work along the Esplanade where the pavement basically has been torn up, exposing dirt. And in terms of, you know, on the subject of best practices,
Mhm.
I did observe that water was being applied while the work was being done, but for example, today, there was no work being done
Right,
and there were no water trucks there, but the soil was still exposed.
right,
When I kind of look at it close, some of the dirt was quite wet.
right.
And so maybe somebody was watering it at some point, but there were some dry areas as well. It's, we need to sort of deal with the situation of, it's not
Mhm.
necessarily just weekends and nights, but work happens in phases, and a certain area may be kind of unattended while the soil is exposed.
Right, and that is something that we're actively talking about. Because I think, especially as we come into the warmer months now, where we're going to have warmer, possibly drier weather for longer spells, it becomes even more important. Especially if there's a large area of exposed soils and nothing is being done during the in that location. And obviously at night and on the weekends, there likely is not going to be work going on. Although sometimes there is nighttime work, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, in general, there needs to be some maybe a shift in the best management practices in some of these areas that we're actively discussing. But I think it would be very helpful for us to receive, the specific concerns and comments and complaints so that we are better prepared going into, our meetings with the building boards.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that's, I mean, Jeff, the question I have for you is how do we as the board want to collect them? So if they're coming into Man One, we could hold them in a folder and then share them all with Laura so they can come through. That's the question that we need to ensure that, and if that way we can share that same information with the Battery Park City Authority in case that they're not copied on anything. Just to have one central clearinghouse is really important to me. So again, much like, the conversations with Betty and Sarah, that it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, it's just one solitary thing.
Right.
But that's a good point. So let that be a lesson to all of you on the committee that if you individually get complaints, as sometimes people may know you're on the board and convey a complaint to you, let's make sure we forward them on to, what is it, to Zach or the Mano one, or whatever, so that we make sure that we have them.
Right.
all in those.
And from our prior experience on similar projects, that is really key. And I think Tammy's talking from experience, for sure. It's really, really important that we have a clearinghouse because it number one, it can get out of control and then things can be missed. And number two, and then it just becomes, inefficient, so, because a lot of times we're seeing similar comments. And so we want to have one clearinghouse so we can sort of put them in buckets of concern, especially here where we have multiple work zones going on at the same time and at different, end to end or overlapping. So really important to have a clearinghouse, make it a lot more efficient for us. But we're used to getting those we're used to getting the concerns and comments, so it's not, it's not unwieldy for us. We're here. That's part of why we're here.
Mark, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Laura, for being here on your evening. I do have a series of questions which I submitted May 15th to the PCGA. I think a couple of them have been answered. I think probably the remainder of those questions I'll just forward to Mano One has been suggested, but I do have a couple of questions based on reviewing the April report. You also mentioned the May report didn't show any significant issues in the May report from that have been issued.
In terms of glitches in the systems?
No, I think you mentioned earlier that there's nothing observed in the May reports, but I've only seen access to the April report.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
just wondering if the May-
there are occasional exceedances that occur, but then they're immediately addressed. So remember, and this is the thing that's hard to sort of easily relay, is that these alerts for PM10, let's say, are based on a 15-minute time-weighted average. Health-based standards are based on a 24-hour time-weighted average. So these are really conservative, highly conservative action levels. All right, so you're actually not exceeding a health-based standard. You're exceeding like a warning level before it would ever rise. And that's the reason why the state regulations, the DEC and DOH regulations from DR10, which establishes the PM10 comparison to a 15-minute time-weighted average, is designed to be sort of, an early warning system, even at the action level exceedance. So it really doesn't, so unless it's sustained over a long period of time, which none of these levels have been sustained. They have been, because the work stops once an action level is
Right. Right.
reached, and then the level has to drop before they can resume. So that is what's been happening, and we can see it in the data. We can see that the
Right.
alert will go on and it'll reset, and it resets almost immediately. So, but we do have
Right.
periodic exceedances that occur, and that is going to be the case until and unless, something is done that addresses, the situation that we were talking about before, where if you have an area of exposed soil and it dries out and then there's wind that blows through and it's at night or on the weekend, there's something that gets done to ensure that that doesn't happen.
So my question was more about the timing of the release of the monthly reports from Innovate. So you mentioned that the May report from Innovate didn't show any concerns. I'm just wondering, has the May
No,
report been-
I don't think I said that because I'm not sure we've seen the May report yet.
I think that was actually his question, is there a May report or not?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing him. That's why I keep on going, putting my face into my screen here. Let me just check the data I have here. 1 second. No, I don't think we have received the May report yet because it's June 4th, so it likely wouldn't be to us yet because the rolling up of all the data for the entire month of May, it takes a little time for them to produce the graphs and the data that has to get incorporated into the report. So I would expect that we will be getting it, sometime next week, perhaps.
So a couple of questions based on the April report.
Mhm.
In particular on Reach 5 and Reach 6. In Reach 6, I noticed there's 2 air quality monitors,
Mhm.
and both of them appear on the map to be west of the work site. And I'd like to understand how the monitoring works, that both monitors appear to be west of the job site.
It's all based on wind direction. So that the wind direction and the prevailing wind direction dictates where the monitors are going to be located.
But with particularly in Battery Park and just the nature of the winds coming off the Hudson River, the prevailing winds shift significantly. So just those 2 monitors, I mean, I guess if the prevailing winds are from the east to the west, then there's never anything being blown into the community that we would pick up on a monitor.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the I'm just looking at it on electronically right now because I don't have the hard copy in front of me. So I'll have to, can I get back to you in writing on your question specifically?
And it's a similar question in Reach 5. There's 4 monitors in the April report. Again, all of them are on the western edge of the work site. And in particular, nothing appears to be very close to Pump House Park, which has a large construction area, and nothing on the east side of Pump House Park, which again, is my understanding, which is quite, quite novice with respect to how it works. But with 4 monitors all on the western side, again, obviously, as you indicated, prevailing winds, but it seems to me with no monitors on the east side of the job site, we don't have a good opportunity to really capture what's upwind and what's downwind.
Right. again, I need to look at the prevailing wind speed and direction for that time frame.
Okay,
And then compare it to where the monitors are located.
okay. And then, again, if I'm understanding correctly, which I may not be, so
Mhm.
this is gonna make it's more of a question than a statement. When there's fairly stagnant air, and I think the measurement is less than 2 miles per hour,
Right,
there's not an ability to capture upwind and downwind. And
Right.
based on my review of the reports, it appears that 30 to 50% of the time,
Mhm.
often there is that stagnant air, which becomes an unclassified air
right,
quality.
right.
That, to me, is really, really concerning, that 50% of the time, we don't really have a sense of what's going on.
Well, if the air is stagnant, I would think that there's likely not much in the way of dust being whipped up. I mean, related to work zone activity, and the misting should be keeping that down. And regardless of what is going on with wind, if something is coming up off of the activities going on in the work zone, it'll be picked up, right?
But if it's tipped up and the air is stagnant, my understanding is it gets classified as unclassified.
Right.
There's not enough data to determine if that's from the job site or from the greater New York City environment.
Right. And I think that becomes an automatic assumption that it's from the work zone, because if it's not registering in the upwind direction, then it's going to register fully as coming from the work zone.
Okay.
You know, it's not going to be auto calculated to reduce out what's coming in from the upgradient, direction.
So the unclassified.
But in a stagnant wind situation, it shouldn't be much in the upwind direction. I mean, that's, I guess, the point. I'm sorry. Can you repeat your question? Because I didn't hear it. Sorry.
So the unclassified, when there's stagnant air, is automatically considered to be job site related?
Well, it'll automatically register on the downwind monitors, and so it'll just register as whatever it's being picked up as. It's not going to be deducted out for any upwind contribution. So you would get an alert if it wasn't from the job site completely, no one would know. So we would act as if it was, and I think that's the point, is we react to the recorded concentration. We don't have, unfortunately, the ability to say, oh, that really wasn't all from the work zone, but it's not the way it would be interpreted. It would just be acted upon as if it was. So
Okay.
again, it's sort of a conservative approach to, not being able to deduct out for any upwind contribution in those circumstances. But I mean, that's part of the situation that you're dealing with when you're doing this kind of monitoring.
And that conservative approach would be considered best practice from your perspective? Or there's somewhere in the middle where we don't have to have such a conservative approach?
Well, I think functionally, the work that's being done out there is definitely consistent with best management practices. Actually, this is a very sophisticated system compared to others that we've dealt with. I mean, the technology has really come a long way in the last several years. And I'm talking like in the last 3 to 5 years. I mean, it really has become a lot more sophisticated, a lot fewer glitches. They do still occur. I mean, we still do get like electrical outages and equipment malfunctions, but not frequently. Not nearly as frequently as I've seen historically, in previous projects in recent years, within the last 5 years. So I think that the equipment is much more sophisticated. The software is much more sophisticated. So I think definitely this is, definitely consistent with the state of the art in the industry right now.
Right. I'm not talking about necessarily the equipment, but more how the data is being reported.
No, for sure. No, I mean, the system gives us a tremendous amount of ability to look at the data, track the data, go in at any point to check see if something's going on, see if there's a monitor that's not working, see if there's, and try to interpret it as best we can. I mean, because this work is fluid and some of the work zones are small, some of them are larger. I mean, it does take conscious action and constant oversight and constant thought processes to keep it, where it is consistent with best management practices.
Right.
I mean, and like I said, there's a lot of eyes on this data and a lot of eyes on the actual monitoring and the alerts that are generated.
Right. Two other small questions.
Sure.
Can you give us a little bit of a heads up on when you issue your report, how consumer or public friendly will it be? Because I think the reaction most people have to the 104, 110 page report from Innovate is overwhelming and complicated. So I'm wondering if what you're going to produce is going to be more consumer friendly.
Well, that's why it's taking a little longer, because there's a lot of information and it is difficult to make it user friendly. And we're doing our best to do that. And we'll have an upfront summary, like we have done in the past, that sort of is like a thumbnail sketch of sort of the overall overarching findings for the reporting period, along with recommendations that we've relayed to the BPCA, if any, during that particular monitoring period, and anything that we've observed during our inspections. So that'll be sort of in an upfront section so that it makes it a little bit easier for those people who don't want to get into the weeds, because it is a little tricky to interpret, the wind graphs that are provided, the ROSE diagrams that come with it, and, looking at all of the background information that's provided. But it is a necessary evil to do that for Innovate, because that is consistent with what's required for them for the project. But we are trying to make it easier and more user friendly for the public to understand.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
Why we're doing that.
No, definitely. But challenging because it is so much information. But
Mark, you have a last question?
Yeah, and just to confirm, your scope is just on the air quality, not sound and vibration.
well, we actually are going to, we have not been pulled into the noise monitoring, but we are going to start to transition into it. We didn't have access previously to the noise monitoring data, but we've been asked by BPCA to start to look at the reports that are being generated by the subcontractor for the noise monitoring, to look at the way the reports are being prepared, as we did with the air quality monitoring reports that Innovate generates, and also possibly to start, receiving the data and access to the monitoring system ourselves. Not 100% sure how far we're going to get pulled into it yet, but we are going to start at least looking at the results and the findings, because I guess the concern is that as work continues to proceed, there may be more concern over noise generation, which on projects like this, historically, noise sometimes can take over for any other concerns because of the prevalence of it. If there's a lot of work going on with, concrete demolition and things like that, or heavy equipment operation. So we are going to start to get more involved in looking at it. And I think that's going to happen immediately.
And that's good news to hear, because as you say, I think as the construction proceeds, we're probably, almost everybody will experience noise, and considering best practices that we've observed so far on dust and so forth, it may be that a relatively small number, but not zero, will experience the dust, but everybody is likely to be experiencing the noise, so it's important.
So many people are complaining.
Yeah, and noise does have a tendency, if the activities are such that you're going to get a lot of that generated, that tends to sometimes overwhelm even the concerns over dust. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Any
Oh,
other
you're welcome.
questions?
And if I could get the comments from the gentleman in a brief email, just as to the specific questions he had about the monitor locations for the different reaches, so that we can respond to that, because I don't want to not be specific in my response, which is I'm really not
Okay,
prepared to respond to it right now. But
sure. Yeah.
yeah. But
I'll send
Eric
one
Wertz
to
will be a
us.
lot more familiar with the specific monitor locations, since he's the day-to-day project manager.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he
We'll
just
get
wasn't
that
able
you.
to join the call tonight because he was out of the office today. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? Okay.
I don't see any other questions.
Okay.
So Laura, thank you very much, and we
Thank you,
look
guys.
forward to continuing to hear from you.
All right. Sounds
Thank you.
good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye, Tammy.
Bye.
So Nick, maybe you can kind of MC the Battery Park City Authority crew here. I know we have all
Yeah.
sorts of
I will do it.
guests
I will do it
here.
very briefly, and I want to thank Angela Howard, who's so wonderful in so many ways, for sitting so patiently. But to set the table very quickly and then turn it over to her, Angela, as you know, is our VP of Construction for the Battery Park City Authority. And as incredible as it sounds to say, we are actually nearing the end of the South Battery Park City project, which, as you know, runs from right behind Museum of Heritage down through Ragnar Park, of course, Piera Plaza, and the northern edge of the Battery. We had, I believe, at the start of that project, committed to be back to you on a roughly bi-monthly basis over the course of that work. That's been now a couple of years. This may be either the last or perhaps the penultimate appearance here, because that project is very steadily getting right toward substantial completion on the final of its 4 packages. So with that, I will turn it over to Angela just to run through some highlights, and then, any questions at the works. Thank you very much.
Just one second before we go to the south.
Yeah.
A thought occurred to me from the Port Authority discussion. I mean, I think it's becoming pretty clear that access to the playground and the dog run is going to be very difficult for some time into the future. And so we're going to need to start thinking imaginatively about mitigation measures. I see hands here. I know I've heard from members of the Dog Association that they've reached out to you about potential solutions like early off leash in park area. There's other things that we can think of, or we try to think of, but we do need to think imaginatively about alternative public space, whether for dogs, or for children, or just people who want to lounge on the Esplanade.
Yeah. Right. Thank you. Thanks, that I read, Ryan very preliminarily into kind of that thinking.
Mhm.
And one of the great things about Ryan is she's willing to indulge me. She's like, sure, I'll take a look. So it's not a yes or no, but it's like, if there are ways to work with the community to see if we can find a way to mitigate things continually. And Ryan, bless her heart, is always keen to do it. So more to come, but no.
Okay. Go ahead.
I think there are slides. I'm not sure.
Nick, do I have
Yes.
slides?
Yes, I emailed them to you at,
I have one deck, right?
should have to. Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Tammy, go while we're looking for the
Yeah.
slide. I can hear hand. Go ahead, Tammy.
I guess one of my questions goes for Nick.
5:33.
There's 2 spots in front of
Yes.
Brookfield along West Street that are highly underutilized, which everybody knows. And we do know there's a long-term development plan by Brookfield. They have, the public space and public lobbies that were in front of Brookfield are no longer public. They're retail spaces that have been unrented. So I guess the question is, could there be some kind of a temporary coordination between BPCA and Brookfield to take any any of the space that's on the West Street side in front of those buildings that is underutilized and turn any of that into some type of a dog run. It's not necessarily ideal. I understand it might be temporary, but it is public space. Potentially, we've lost the internal public space. So perhaps an external would be really nice. And then I know you told me no and said that there are lots of construction trucks and things like that. But since we don't have construction nights and weekends, I'm still wondering if we can get any kind of a volleyball court over on the back end of North End Avenue. I know I walked by there after, let's see, Sunday after the farmer's market. Thank you very much. I walked by and I just kind of, conceptually sat over there looking. I understand there's the driveway entrance. I mean, but it still seems like there could be a possibility to utilize some of the underutilized space, especially on a Sunday where it was so quiet. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it could be good.
Okay, I got it written down, Tammy. I will, take it back to the team.
Thanks, Tammy.
Down that I object. Well, for that themselves on the north side, that's how we get to and from.
Right.
Southsiders can say nobody really uses it. We use it all the time. That's how we get to and from.
Okay. got
Betty, I
one
wasn't
thumbs up.
talking sidewalk, I was
I
talking
know
street.
that there are people there all the time.
Okay,
Yep, go ahead.
all right. Oh, exactly, thank you, okay.
Thank you. Yes.
There's a little bit of a lag, so when you do it, it might take a second. From the series.
Well, welcome everyone to what I hope is the penultimate presentation of the South Battery Park. I don't know if anyone or everyone has been up to the pavilion rooftop, but I do want to encourage people to go up there. It's nicely planted. It's available to all and it's completed and open and the whole pavilion building is completed and permitted. The restaurant is working on their shop drawings and permitting now so that they can start their build out coming soon to a theater near you. And as everyone knows, the community classroom has been open. But more importantly, we finally worked together with the team to get a connection straight through to the battery. And on Memorial Day weekend, we opened 2 connections, one down at near PRA Plaza. So that's what this looks like, and it's connected to the prior Hunter Roberts project that was going on there. So now people can walk straight to both the ferry and the ferry ticketing booth. And this goes around to the battery on the going east. And we have a connection also at West Street, which lines up with the Verrazano statue to the battery. Just so that everybody knows, because we did have to put some signage up, that connection goes straight into the bike lane. We are trying to make sure that it's as safe as possible to minimize issues. And we do close it off every so often as the contractors finish their work across the entire job site. Right now, we are constrained by an extremely narrow job site with a lot of equipment going in it. We've just started to get ready to pave along. This is on the Battery Place side of the wall. And pavers are going down. I'm hoping to have this completely paved by the end of this week or early next week. The idea in general is that on the 4th of July, Angela will be independent of this project. For much of it, there is one section because we have changing elevations that will lag beyond that, and I'll show you that on a map shortly. And this is what that section is looking like. And we have started to install soils, et cetera, on the berm. The stones that have been, the granite stones that have been relocated from along the path are going in, as are the cobblestones. We expect to have planting material next week. And I think 80 some odd trees and a lot of shrubs, et cetera, are going to start going in. So we're really starting to gear up and wrap things up. We started installing light poles today on the Battery Place side. And we're moving along on stone installation at PRA Plaza and trying to complete that area there. And this is the top of the PRA Plaza. Much of the paving has been done. They're just waiting for the cutouts to be done. And the last piece, I'm gonna say on the far left open area, that gets wood deck, so we're gonna do the wood decking last so that it doesn't get damaged. That truck there is the last chopper out of Nam. It's the only thing that we can use to place the stones, et cetera, that we're setting. We have really painted ourselves into corners with all of these steps and elevation changes. And this is probably the most important piece of it. So the areas in green represent what is opened now. The areas in brown, the colors look slightly different. The areas in brown in the middle.
Red brown in my legend. That was my
Okay.
contribution to this slide, red brown.
Okay, yes, thank you. Are gonna be open for July 4th. There may be a couple of temporary railings, et cetera, because we're trying to get all the railings and the lights, et cetera, in. And what it says, yellow shade Labor Day, I'm gonna say represents the piece at the curve of Battery Place and before you get to West Street, that in real space that actually steps up, and we can't finish that until we get all of the bike lanes done and move the bike traffic back into the park and then go back to that spot, which gets a couple of planters and some bollards, et cetera. And the purple is the construction yard that's gonna be there until all of the materials are used up. And I think everybody has seen the Coming Soon at a theater near you, but it is actually literally coming soon. We have the construction team working 2 shifts a day, and that you can see where the wood, et cetera, are going to go. We have them working 2 shifts a day, 7 days a week to try and get this open by 4th of July. And that is almost it. That it's not gonna look like that. Just so that, you know, we can all be realistic and manage expectations. But that's really it. Thank everybody for your patience and cooperation while we have been usurping everyone's lives. But something nice is going to happen.
Thank you, Angela. Any questions about the South?
Hey, Tammy.
Yeah, Tammy, go ahead.
Hey, Angela, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
I literally did a spit take from my drink on the last chopper out of Nam, so thank you so much for that. That was hilarious. Props to you, just props. One of a couple things. One, I've heard about, I know the punch list items. So I'm asking about the water fountain that was in Wagner that was not actually, you know, it was like a water fountain spraying very, very far, as to whether or not that was fixed. The sprinkler systems were ponding. It's like, I feel like you're never going to leave us. Sorry.
No.
And then the question is, on the south side, the signage was really tiny, and we brought this up a couple months back when we first opened Wagner about the connection between the pedestrians and the bike areas. The signage was super short and not very robust, and I'm concerned. And it did, for example, there was no signage really that said no bikes allowed to drive up the very expensive ADA ramp that's up there and down. Like there was no, I know they're supposed to end where they're supposed to end, but there's no bikes allowed over here kind of signage. So those were questions that I wanted to. The wayfinding is going to be real messy. We're expecting tons of amazing people to come and view the boats and everything for July 4th. And just trying to take a look at making sure that we're doing the best job that we can on those kind of signage. I don't know if it has to be rethought by Battery Park City Authority. I don't know but I didn't see any changes. So I'm asking again. That's one.
Okay, I will look into it and get back to Nick or I'm happy to get back to you on it. I think we've probably been focused a lot on just trying to deliver the park, but I will circle back to the wayfinding in particular. I think it behooves all of us to make sure that People know where they're going. Google Maps has not caught up with us yet, so their maps aren't even current to what the condition is today, and we're working on that as well. But to make sure that people feel comfortable knowing where they're going is important, and that they feel safe, because there is a lot of interaction between pedestrian and bicycle traffic, and we want to make sure that that's as safe as possible. So if nothing else, we can take a look at it and do some assessment, and certainly do something temporary until something permanent can be installed, because the main focus is to make people safe and comfortable.
Yeah,
So
I think
we'll do
that's kind of a critically, even temporary signage, it's just so critical to get that looked at and done before we have, I mean, I think Wagner Park starts next week with watch parties for
For
FIFA.
FIFA, yes.
Yep. So, I mean,
Yes.
I'm just trying to look at how we organize and make sure that people are getting where they need to be safely and not. Right.
Got it.
The two. I don't know if that includes larger signs that say no dogs on the grass. And I'm sorry, I'm a dog lover and a dog owner, and I get that.
Oh, Ryan.
Ryan.
I have to tell you, not only do I, every time I look at someone with a dog on that lawn, it hurts my heart personally. We did work to tweak the irrigation system, so I think that's a lot better than it was last year when we opened. We had replaced the lawn. It looks like it's thriving, but we've been looking to see if there's any more ponding. I think it's considerably better than it was, and we'll continue to tweak that. I'm uncertain about the water fountain, so I will double check.
Okay, great. And then as we move towards the Battery, the same concerns with signage are really critical. And pursuant to the amazing planting and gardeners that we have both in Battery Park City Authority, which is just probably some of my favorite peeps over there. Nick, sorry.
It's okay. Why, I want her to hear it.
How is the coordination going with the planting team that's in the Battery, who has award-winning planting and design? And I know we talked about, everything was coordinated back and forth. And then you mentioned, yes, this lovely photo of the future of the bike path won't look exactly like this. So I'm kind of curious as to if you can give me more information. I don't know which department at BPCA does this about the horticulture, because if I understand correctly, once the project is done, everything that's in the project field is permanently managed by the authority.
Correct. And when I say it won't look like this, we don't plant fully mature plants. And so what will happen is we'll put in plugs, et cetera, and do the planting. And we also have a warranty on those plants. And we have a spring planting, which is going to happen next week, and a fall planting for the bulbs. That being said, it takes a little while for them to establish themselves. And I think Wagner Park looks spectacular compared to what it looked like just a year ago when we planted it. So what I mean by that is just, you're gonna have to give it time for the plants to get to their full growth. We are coordinating obviously with Ryan and company on the landscaping, but I meet regularly with the Parks Department and the Battery Conservancy as well to walk through and make sure that we're all aligned on everything. And we actually discovered a no man's land that neither our project nor the Hunter Roberts project had picked up. Right near, there's a garden that's on just immediately to the south of us near the Verrazano. So
Can you show me where on your fantastic diagram?
It may not be on my map, but I'm gonna go back. Let me see.
Yeah.
Why am I losing this word? It's a contemplative garden with a labyrinth. The labyrinth. Yeah. Right.
The labyrinth.
Yeah. Right.
If I remember, the labyrinth wasn't supposed to be destroyed. I remember.
No, the labyrinth is fine and it's staying the way it is, but there's an area between the labyrinth and our wall that is not planted. And so we're going to coordinate something with the Parks Department and the Parks Conservancy. Yeah, I'm not sure if it appears on our map.
That's the one.
Okay.
There.
It's there. So the corner, where that corner of green is next to the labyrinth, to the left of the labyrinth, if you will.
Yes.
it's a small, maybe 6 foot wide section, but it's neither our scope of work nor Hunter Roberts' scope of work. So the Conservancy and Parks and I are working together to figure out what we can do to get someone to do something about that little piece. But we've been coordinating. I have to say the contractors, Hunter Roberts and our contractor, Battery Park Constructors, have been playing very nicely in the sandbox and have really coordinated well together across the separate projects. And
Yeah.
yeah.
They've been amazing. They've come to us many times with samples and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would,
They're lovely.
I mean,
Yeah.
from a leadership perspective, I would 100% agree. I mean, whoever handles it as long as it's beautiful, that's all that matters. So thank you very, very
Yeah.
much.
But we're walking through regularly, and Parks and the Conservancy and I are on a regular cadence of meeting just to make sure that there's nothing that even if it was missed in some way, that we don't take care of it before the.
When that wall ages, will the colors change, or will it always be that black and white, or will it be more gray?
I think it will wear to not a monolithic gray. It's a striated, it's marble, it's a striated pearl. I expect it to keep its color. It doesn't have any sealers on it or anything like that. Sorry, anti-graffiti. There's no anti-graffiti coating so there's nothing on it to make it do anything other than stay that color. So
there is no anti-graffiti coating?
There is not. I actually inquired with it about it because I acted like a mad person about not having it on the pavilion. But what I was told was that since it was so textured, the designers didn't think it needed a coating.
We'll find out.
I was tag it myself.
I hate to say it, but this goes back to being right as the booby prize, because we did ask about that from the very beginning. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, but there's no coating on it. I think the textures. I'm not sure what people think. Like they think if it's marble, everyone will be on their best behavior. I'm uncertain about that approach, but we're gonna go with it. And
I'm going for chalk art. I'm in for chalk art. I'm gonna grab Jeff, and the two of us are going out there. Thank you very much, and it's great to see you. Thank you for coming.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I don't see any others. Hold on just a second. Any other questions in the room?
But again, thank you for all your patience. I know it has not been easy.
It's worth the wait.
Good job.
Okay, no other questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Angela. Okay.
Yes, very briefly, and thank you for being. And so Ryan, Keon, for being so patient. So
I'm gonna switch places with you if you want to come to the.
bring up my report. I'll do my thing last. I wanted very briefly to reintroduce you to Ryan Torres, our Vice President of Parks Operations. And to introduce Keon, to the Director of Public Safety. Very, very briefly.
Yeah, very briefly, because I know we're, but I just wanted to come and say hi. I wanted to bring Keon with me tonight. So we're just kind of hanging out for now, and that's what we're going to be doing for the next couple of weeks. Keon's our new Director of Public Safety, and so him and I are going to be working closely, with all things public safety in Battery Park City. He comes with over a decade of experience in similar like-minded areas like housing authorities, small municipalities. So really excited about the work, Pat and me and Keanu and the neighborhood are going to be able to do. And so expect him to be a regular face. So I just wanted to make sure I came tonight to, say hi, introduce Keon, and you'll likely see him here more than me, but just wanted to make sure,
You're a warm welcome.
yeah, he had a warm welcome. So that, you know where to find us if you have any questions.
So thank you and welcome, Keon. I know that with all the construction going on, there are likely to be some different public safety issues than we've historically experienced. There are areas that are kind of narrow and dark that invite people to lurk in at night, and some of the areas along the Esplanade are kind of dead-endy now, that lots of people enjoy because they're now kind of peaceful as opposed to hectic, but there are also opportunities for public safety issues in some of those spaces. So we welcome you, and And you'll at least not have the experience of the way it used to be. You'll be looking at it with brand new eyes.
That's right.
This will be very helpful. Awesome.
Yeah, I think Tammy has a hand up.
Yes, Tammy, go ahead.
Well, I apologize for not being able to meet you in person, and I want to thank you and welcome you to the community and the neighborhood. I have some great questions since we've just seen the updates and the goals to have the South Battery Park City project done. We are working with the Battery Conservancy to work on the ticket hawkers and the issues that we have around that will bleed in for you because the Battery Park City Authority is the one who operates and manages now the entire park space other than the sidewalk, which I don't know, you'll have to tell me whether you are responsible for the sidewalk because you're the northern end of the park now. And we have seen over the course of the last 3 years, a larger increase in the numbers of the ticket hawkers who are aggressively in the traffic lanes, directing cabs to come over so they can sell and stopping people or putting them on buses and other things who are attempting to get into Battery Park. I myself have been stopped heading into Battery Park, told, oh, I'm sorry, you can only enter if you have a ticket, or the park is closed because the boats are full. You can only see the statue from here. I've heard and seen so many things. And while that sounds like it's very far away, it's actually at the corner of Pataki Way, the bike lanes, and now they are spreading towards the front of the Wagner Hotel. And when this is open to Pier A, they will cross back across. So I look forward to hearing your ideas and suggestions for how to improve that. We are working on a task force group of stakeholders, and I'm sure we'll talk to you about that as well.
Oh,
And
thank you,
then
Tammy.
the only other thing that I would request and say is I'd love to hear more from you at another point when the contract renewal is up again for Allied or beforehand, because the goals that the community board has done resolutions on included more peace officers, more consistency on Allied. It is a seasonal position, and unfortunately, I mean, I'll just ask you, from being outside and walking around in both the beautiful hot weather that we have now and knowing how cold it can be, for the same money, if you were an Allied employee, would you rather be inside Brookfield working at a desk scanning people's IDs, or would you rather be wandering outside in the pouring rain? And having the understanding of the job descriptions when you look at them and the pay rates, and finding a way to incentivize perhaps staffing to come back year after year instead of consistently having new people or having consistency, any kind of changes that you can suggest. Allied is a valued asset in the neighborhood. We've passed many resolutions on thoughts that we've had and haven't seen enough change that has come from suggestions that we've asked. And I'm happy to share those if you need. Zach can pull them all, or Jeff can.
We'll be walking, is this your second full week or first week still? What is it? I think it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Dan and I are gonna be walking the site as he kind of gets, more familiarized. I think on Monday we have something set up to walk, so we'll get him right on some of the. But thank you for the initiation, and we
The
look forward
plan is to meet all the stakeholders and get all the things, and really Keon is on a real listening tour right now to just kind of see what, where we're at, what that baseline is. That said, we're not doing anything, but we're really just kind of absorbing what is so that we can figure out where those greatest impacts are. It is week 2. So he's still baby stepping around, all the BPCA staff, so we want to get the stakeholders. We're meeting Brookfield next week. We're meeting the Museum of Jewish Heritage next week, we're meeting building, so we'll get there. I promise. Thank you, Tammy.
Okay. That's it. Questions? Go ahead.
If it's all right with you, we'll just go right into Pat from there and then we'll take it. Okay?
Yep.
Patrick?
That's a tough act to follow.
I agree.
No, it's not.
Go ahead, thank you. See you all.
Bye, Ron.
Okay. As you can see from the graph, last year there was no graffiti. This year we had one. It was actually in like a park on top of the wall where you go to enter the steps to go down to Pier A. Homeless last year, we had 36 encounters, this year 18. We're dealing basically with 3 homeless people that are on the property. One of them is familiar to us, the other 2 are somewhat new. One of them is a gentleman that likes to scream out loud and people pass him by, so. We have notified, Department of Homeless Services, so they're aware, and we've been calling 311 to deal with them. Lost and found, there was 2 last year and 2 this year. Park rules, there was 1 violation last year, this year so far 4, and basically that was dealing with vendors. Vendor solicitation, last year was 5, this year we have 4, and a lot of the reports were dealing with the vendor up at across from 200 Liberty. I'm getting him moved. Dog violations, last year was 11, this year 31. So this year we've had a lot of dog violations dealing with Wagner. So we have somebody there all the time. And also Rockefeller, the North Lawn, so we hired somebody at a split shift. So that has gone down, but now they've moved down to, instead of North Meadow, they're down in the south. So we're slowly working that way out, and I've also started hiring safety ambassadors, ramping up for the summer. Just as a note, I was at the First Precinct's Community Council meeting, and State Assembly Grace Lee was there. And I did speak to her about the ticket sellers down at Battery Park. And she took my information. I asked about the bill that was being drafted, and she didn't know anything about it, so she was gonna look into it. Obviously, that bill hasn't been presented to be voted on, so that's it.
This is anecdotal, but I think that quite likely the increase in the dogs on the lawn issue is correlated to the loss of one of the dog runs. And it just demonstrates that we need to do something to relieve that pressure, whether it's allowing early off leash in some park area, like many parks in New York City permit, or Tammy was suggesting exploring that Brookfield / DOT kind of empty area and this potential temporary long run. I think, the pressure is there. It's going to need to be relieved in a way other than just writing summonses.
Right.
And on the homeless issue, I see that the numbers have gone down. Once again, this is anecdotally, but on the South Esplanade, I walk my dog at like 6:30 every morning, and occasionally, historically, you'd see 1 or 2 kind of regular homeless people there from time to time. But since it's been closed off, and so that it's no longer a thoroughfare, but it dead ends up by Gateway, particularly in the dead end area, on the warmer days, I've noticed many more homeless. I mean, like the other day, it was like at least 5 different people that appeared to have been sleeping there all night. I don't know how long they'd actually been sleeping there, but they were certainly sound asleep and all bundled up at 6:30 in the morning. And that was an unusual occurrence to see before the roadway was closed off. And I don't know if Patrick, you've noticed or an increase in those areas. You see overall the numbers have decreased, but they may have just moved around. And also there were only a few warm days in May, and it was those few warm days that I
Well,
noticed the occurrences.
what I'm seeing is, you know, the one homeless person that he left when winter came.
Mhm.
He's now back. He's in what I call a snow outfit. Okay, that's what he's still wearing, that stuff, and he's somewhat supported by, you know, the Poet House. You know, like they've been, you know, helping him out. I've even had Department of Homeless Services. I got the Poet House's manager number and allowed them to communicate with each other to try and get this gentleman some services. But now there's these two other homeless people that have come into the park, and they've been like together in Teardrop Park. And then when the safety ambassador approaches them or whatever and gets them up and moving, you know, like they'll move to another site in the park. So that's what we're seeing. So it's more like they're traveling as a group now.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think you should have your guys pay particular attention to the kind of newly dead, there's gonna be different dead end areas as different
Right.
parts are closed off. But, you know, be cognizant of where those locations are.
yeah, I'll look to put somebody there.
Yeah.
You know, instead of it being part of a roving tour, I'll have somebody there.
Other questions for Patrick?
What is that?
Sounds like a fire.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that's all.
We'll give an announcement.
Shut the door quick.
Hey, Patrick, how are we doing on peace officers? I know it's a rough time with trying to get some through NYPD, but you can't ticket people with.
Oh, no, you know, I'm at 8. I have 8 peace officers.
Is that your
Awesome.
goal or?
No, the goal is to get up to 10,
Okay, all right, well, you're getting closer.
get closer, yes.
So
right.
when you're talking about scheduling of versus roving, is there any way to have? So I see a lot of people complaining that people are walking their dogs early morning at West Thames, which is AstroTurf.
Hold on, hang on a second, the fire alarm messages.
Funny, I can't hear it.
To the extent I can understand that they're saying standby for a further.
Right.
Is under investigation.
Oh, okay.
Tammy, can you repeat your question, please?
Absolutely. Do you think that we could potentially get someone who could be stationed, for lack of a better word, in the mornings over by West Thames on the AstroTurf? That seems, other than Wagner, Rector and the AstroTurf on West Thames seems to be a popular location for off-leash dogs.
You're talking in the morning or, because I've had somebody there in the evening? Yeah.
Yeah,
I
mornings.
mean, I have one peace officer on the midnight shift. I'll have her over there in the morning.
Yeah. And then 276, there are groups of parents complaining, I think, about that one gentleman that you were talking about, the homeless person who air boxes and screams. And
Yes.
yeah, so he's been spending a little bit more time around that area. And there were people who were concerned, and I know, I just want for the public to understand, you've done a good job before of explaining when you are able to call homeless services and things like that. If you don't mind going over that one more time for people, because we've done a good job of that so far, and just want to make people understand how that process works, if you don't mind.
So basically, everybody that sees a homeless person, or they've even changed definitions, so now, the new administration, they're dealing with it, calling it unhoused homeless person, okay? They want everybody calling 311, whether the person moves or not, okay? So that, Department of Homeless Services can send somebody there. The whole key is the number of times to call on that individual. And basically what happens is a lot of times when my people approach, right, like I have them saying, like if the homeless person's in Rockefeller Park, sleeping on the bench, my thing was have them sit up, right? And now that the weather's nice, go lay down on the lawn. Go put your blanket out on the lawn and sleep. It's an open park. But we're still calling. We're still asking them if they would like services. The answer is no. And then we call it in anyway to 311. Okay? So that's the new way that I've been told on these meetings that I've been on. That the more times you call, the better the probability that someone's gonna come out. Now, when you call 311 and you get a number, they give you a report number and they say, oh yeah, somebody's gonna be responding from the Department of Homeless Services. If the person's there, yes. The whole thing is, is the person there when they come along? Try to explain to them, you have to get out of the car. Okay, you gotta get out of the car and you gotta walk into like Teardrop Park. Right, to see where the person is. I also deal with BRC. Okay, now BRC, they cover the lower end of CB1 area. Okay, but when you get up towards Teardrop Park, that's out of their area. So, BRC has come over, and made attempts. And I think that's basically what helped down by that homeless person by 276. So he hasn't been around in a while, but now, based on you telling me, I guess he's back. Because I think that's the individual that was up by the police memorial that was screaming his head off the other day. Okay, that's homeless. So he's sort of been up towards the north end, is where we've been seeing him.
All right. Well, thank you for what you do to try to address the situation. And I know it may seem frustrating because so few take advantage of the services that you're offering, but each one that does take advantage is worth the effort.
Oh, and I'm gonna actually say that I think the push to call 311 has been successful. If you look at the total numbers of reports that Patrick reports from 25 to 26, in a more condensed space, one would have expected that the number of reports would have come up because there's just not as much space for people to spread out. So I actually think we might be making progress, although it might not feel that way, but it certainly is encouraging. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'll also just want to encourage adding photos to 311 reports. That's helpful to the outreach folks, especially in the park section, to locate them. I know sometimes it's a little uncomfortable taking a photo, but if you feel comfortable, they do encourage that.
Thanks. All right, Nick, you ready?
I am. Thank you very much. I am smiling because Zach said pics and videos, and sometimes you get a flash about how old you're getting. I remember when we made a big announcement that everyone could accept pictures and videos, and that was like in 2007. It's a big innovation at the time. Everyone wasn't just phone calls, you can also attach pictures and videos to your online requests. It's funny as it goes by. Nonetheless, thanks everyone. I'll be brief here with just some highlights for the group. Pictured there on the front page is some participants at our Go Fish program. As you know, catching and release fishing, it's very popular. One of about 600 free public programs and events that we are offering over the course of the summer, June, July, and August. It's very nice feedback as well. Some folks who obviously enjoy our program, but specifically made the point to say thank you for the great experience at Go Fish. So it's just one of many. Hold on a second. Make sure we're safe. The fire alarm, I'm going to pause for a second. All right. We're going to stand by for further announcement. I'm going to aim to be done by the time that further announcement comes through. I'm joined here, as you know, who was here by our fine community construction leaders and Michael Ryan from the Northwest Project. He and I are probably talking several times daily, many times during over the course of the week. We work very diligently to try to get information out as best we can, including with our bi-weekly newsletters, the latest version that just went out this Monday, June 1st. The next one will be on the 15th. Just some highlights here for you all there about the work that's going on. It's written here, I won't go through it all, but just so you know, there is obviously site readiness work wrapping up, flood barrier system construction underway at those locations: South Cove, North Cove, Albany, Rector Place, Chambers Street. It's Albany, Rector, Chambers Street, and Stein Plaza. And then we just are mobilizing this week on Vesey Street, including some overnight fencing that should be going in with notification both to the building, the hotel, the community board's courtesy, but knock on wood, I think it's been fairly well done so far, with notification to everyone and hopefully minimal impacts. I made a point here. Sorry. You didn't succeed. Okay, for those watching at home, the condition has been corrected and all building services have been restored. Okay. I made it a point just to ferret out here the pedestrian access along each of those areas. Through South Cove, North Cove, Marina, Albany, Rector, Chambers, and Vesey Street. I have some pictures there as well of some of the work that is going on. The one thing I did want to note, we put it out in a number of places, including in meetings and in the newsletter. But July, through the July 4th holiday, through July 5th, outdoor access on the exterior of Brookfield Place will be available until Monday, July 6th. After that, the area outside the Winter Garden will be captured, meaning you can still walk north-south. It just need to be through Brookfield Place, outdoors until it's you run into the place where the fencing has been erected. I did want to note, though, that there will be, for the July 4th holiday, the sale to 50th, and all the attending events, the construction fencing at Belvedere will be moved ahead of the July 4th celebration for an additional area of public view. And you will see there on the chart on the upper right, area to remain public through the July 4th celebration. That's in the upper right. That's Belvedere Plaza to Orient Group. So just so you're aware, there will be some additional space there over the course of that, over the course of the holiday for viewing. We have our twice weekly drop-in sessions, and I've hyperlinked there, which will be obviously once we are online with this report, you'll be able to link to our three most recent newsletters, and again, a link there to sign up. If you're interested, we do pack a lot into them. We're trying to kind of thread the needle where it's enough information, but not too much, but there's a lot going on, and we want to make sure that we're doing it in a way that is comprehensive, but also understandable. South BPCR we just did with Angela. I had re-included the chart here from the longer presentation, which itself will also be linked about the areas opening up. green, red, brown, and yellow, but we are steaming toward completion there. That thanks to Angela and the team for that product over these years, and for the community for their flexibility and patience. I know it hasn't been easy, but we are getting toward the end of that. Very briefly, we have a lot of Pride events coming up. I won't go through all of them, but Police Press is coming up this Saturday. It's a wonderful performer doing his performance and his top performance there on the weekend. Sunday the 7th, we have Repair Fest. This might be a really interesting one for folks who are kind of hobbyists or interested. You'll get an opportunity to rehab some of your injured items. That food there, that's at 6 River Terrace. As a reminder, the farmers market is happening roughly at the same time, and I always include the reminder that River Terrace is closed to vehicular traffic on Sundays through November 22nd, although obviously pedestrians can travel to and from. We have Juneteenth coming up on June 19th. That's always an increasingly an annual favorite, and notably for the group, these are out of order, my apologies. The Swedish Midsummer Festival, which is always usually the Friday, this year is Saturday, June 20th. Since the 19th is Juneteenth. So that's Saturday, June 20th, Swedish Midsummer. That is one of our staple and largest events. That's at Rockefeller Park. It really should be a wonderful experience for all. We have the FIFA World Cup watch party on the 12th. That's the opening match, US versus Paraguay. That's in Wagner Park. And then our community field day, which is schools out for summer, fun and games, performances, music, ice cream, and some partners from Apple related contests and games for the kids. Following there will be Fire Blitz and Sail 250th. That's obviously on July 4th. I did want to note for the group, I'll have some additional detail forthcoming, but perhaps it's not as a surprise. The large public viewing areas for the 4th of July are, not surprisingly, going to be Wagner Park in the south and Rockefeller Park in the north. We will be running a cooling center from the Pavilion Classroom on the 4th of July for folks who can kind of cool out for a minute. But those are our two largest parks, and those will be fully open and accessible to the public to enjoy the festivities on the 4th of July. River Blues I've also noted, because by the time we get to you next, because I believe the BBC meeting in July is actually later, the 16th or 17th. I wanted to make sure we put the first couple of performances there for River Blues. That's every Thursday in July, as it's become a favorite community tradition. I've dutifully thrown in my No Dogs on Lawn to make Patrick's and the ambassadors' lives hopefully a little easier. And Ryan and our horticulturalist, that's a standing item. And just a reminder about employment opportunities at BPCA. We have one event coming up, so no walks or runs there, Tammy, but there is a film shoot in Wagner Park on the 11th. The park will remain open throughout, but in case you see a film crew there, that's what it is. And that is my report, pending any questions.
So, Nick, go ahead.
After July 6th, you can't walk in between Brookfield and fencing.
Okay. It's not out at all. We're gonna be indoors to go north-south. You can walk until where the fencing starts.
Or go the.
Yeah, or you go on the west side highways.
My only concern, and this is really my wife's concern,
Yes.
that runners go that way.
Yes.
And now they'll have two teams apart.
Which is why, and it's something that we are constantly trying to chase the panic idea of signage is gonna be paramount, so we
Yeah.
are mindful that we have to get that up, and there's.
I'm gonna say this,
Traffic.
at the end of South, at the circle of South end, there are two fences that have detour runners.
Yes.
No one, I watched runners bypass it and run directly into the dead end. No one pays attention to that. I shouldn't say no one, I shouldn't say that. I've seen runners.
Right.
I see the signage clear.
Thank you. Have you seen the same runner do it twice?
No. I have not, but I sit out and I can see them like,
Okay.
as they pass.
When you're
through
in
the
zone,
sign.
sometimes you're in the zone, you're just in the zone, but
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's clear to you, hopefully it's clear to others, but we'll continue to see if there's ways that we can optimize it, different ways and places. Thank you. Okay.
I mean, I had a couple of questions, but one of them was what Eric just said, and sort of the corollary to that is that you need to make sure that the alternative path along the West Street side, yes, Brookfield, is properly able to be a running
half. Right. And really signage at both ends, in terms of where people need to be expected to run. So that was one comment. Yeah, the other one, in talking about the various Northwest disruptions and closures and so forth. One complaint that we've got has to do with third place and some late night, and I think we may have copied you, Nick, on this a while ago, I don't recall. Late night garbage pickup and it's the beep beep beep, you know, at 3 in the morning, there's a lot of apartments that face third place, that little cul-de-sac that dead ends into the south coast. And the complainers haven't been able to identify, they were speculating as to the source of the stuff that was being picked up, and one question was, is any of it resiliency waste being dumped there? I would find that hard to believe because I see the huge number of dump trucks lined up on South End Avenue in the morning, which I assume are going to be taking away whatever debris is to be taken away. But if you could find out whether any of that, any garbage is from the resiliency project is being left for commercial pickup on third place. Okay. And if so, I don't know if there's something that can be done to change it. The nature of the geography of that location is that it's impossible for a garbage truck to go in there without backing up. And right. And, okay, let me. And when it's done at 3 in the morning, it can be quite. 3 is surprising, but I don't want to. I don't know what I don't know, so let me. Yeah, I mean, it may be from your building, Eric. I don't know if any.
The third place.
Yeah, if any renovations are being done in your building such that, and so it may very well be your building. Oh, maybe a private carter. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely a private carter that's taken. Oh, it is. Okay. At least from the reports that I've been getting.
Yeah, there are renovations going on in different apartments in my building.
I'll see, third floors. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it may be, but just make sure it's not. I would check. If it is, we maybe can at least address. Yeah, that's the case, certainly, we can get that, but I will note it. And then my third question had to do with the FIFA watch party. Yes. If I understood, I mean, I don't remember if you were on this, Kevin certainly was, the permits being requested during World Cup by the restaurant that's not yet. Yeah, we dealt with this a little today. Yes, it's clear now. Tammy, thank you for flagging it for me. The only event that we have is the June 12th, that's next Friday night, that's US Savers Paraguay. JDE, which is they're running the kiosk now, but going to be the restaurant proprietor in Environment Park. That comes forward for liquor permits for a range of dates in June. So Tammy's I'd asked them, I think we wanted some clarity on the time they were looking for, and also why the extra dates, because there's no additional permitting from us. I think within that was they just wanted to have, perhaps, I don't want to speak for that, what I understand, the flexibility to maybe be able to serve alcohol on the dates when the World Cup is happening generally. And I asked Daniel to reach out to Zach and that I think he did, so there's stuff there, but it's not to 4 AM. I think it's until. Yeah, I'm not really expecting to do one or the other. No, I lived in the world for 5 years, and so open container is something. Right. You know, it's common in some places. Okay, those were all my questions. Do we have, anybody else have questions? Kenny, go ahead. Bring us home, Kenny.
Okay, I'm kind of with Eric here. Walking every day over through Brookfield and around the back, what I've noticed is beyond the runners, right, it is still exceedingly active with people who walk through Battery Park City with their dogs, the neighbors specifically going north and south. And also we still have bicyclists that are riding down the street, down the Esplanade or down North End Avenue and try and ride behind Brookfield, and the interaction with pedestrians is not pretty. So I have concerns with the cut through only being now through Brookfield, and Brookfield does not like dogs cutting through, or do they like people walking bicycles through? So not sure what you can do for pathways, but I don't know whether it's signage. I don't know if it's hiring flagmen, you know, or an ambassador to man. I know that's not ambassador territory, but you're going to
Right.
need to have somebody there to redirect traffic. And I would prefer if it's a live body that can actually talk to people and that is stationed a little bit further to where the circle is, to really direct people to say, you know, the back is closed, you can cut through Brookfield over here. I think without a live body there to do that job, it's not going to be pleasant for weeks, not just days. So that would be
Okay.
my one request as to whether that can happen.
How long is that closed to? That is. The duration?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, I believe that, the area is going to be captured and then further captured eventually, but once that access point is closed off, it's closed off.
It's forever? I mean, until the end of the.
Part of the next 4 hours.
It's,
Until the area is, the work is complete.
It's a good recommendation, Tammy, we'll, take it back.
Well, and then I guess my question is, those restaurants,
Just around that one word.
Sorry, there's just a question here with, Betty.
those restaurants have outdoor seating. Will they be losing their outdoor seating? Michael's shaking his head no. Okay.
They won't be. So just for anybody that hasn't walked through that egress recently, it has expanded a little bit, but there is still seating remaining at PJ Clarkson, the district, and I don't think the egress width is going to be expanding further until the egress is entirely closed, but that is not for a little while. But the through traffic will be gone after.
So you're gonna close the ends so that people can't get in there.
Well, so you'll still be able to go.
Well, yeah.
Like along the egress, you just won't be able to pass through. Right. Yeah.
So I guess, Michael, here's the question for you. In the winter time, they don't do outdoor seating. Would the passageway be open in the winter because there's no more outdoor seating?
I will have to double check on that. I don't know, but I can definitely follow up.
If that's possible, I mean, before the project started, I was thinking that when certain areas are captured, the remaining uncaptured areas may be sufficiently unattractive that nobody would want to use them, but I've completely changed my mind on that. There is a desperate need and desire for outdoor space, and people will take what they can get. So if there's something salvageable, we should salvage it.
I'm 100% with Jeff. Unfortunately, no amount of construction actually denies the public's opportunity for wanting to walk outside versus going inside that building. So anything that we can do to actually relieve the pressure in the building as well would be helpful. And we'd love to hear if you determine, Michael, that that's going to be possible. If so, when? So for example, we're in June now. I find it sad that you're going to capture the outdoor space now. I think that that's poorly timed coming up to sale 250. Like I really don't understand why you wouldn't wait a little
Not till
bit.
after sale. It's not till after sale.
Okay, it's still the beautiful summertime. That's all I'm saying. So if there was any way to maintain any kind of walkway, or if you're able to reopen the exterior because the restaurants are not serving outside, to have an exterior pathway, that's going to be helpful. Because I mean, I have concerns that for people who walk their dogs north and south through the back of Brookfield, what that's going to do is concentrate even more the issues by further dividing the neighborhood to a level that's not productive for the remaining public realm, which we've talked about it being a sanitary and health issue.
Yep. Any other questions, comments? All right, hearing none. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Sorry,
guys. See you in the park.
See you guys.
Yeah.